Hello, Inferno is finally done, and I'm going to recap the last few episodes. Just some disclaimers. If I'm mispronouncing your guys' name wrong, I'm so sorry. If I look off to the side, it means I'm looking off to my notes on my computer. Basically, these last few episodes is us trying to figure out who Gwan is going to pick between Hye-seon and Minji. So to recap the last episode, we have the top 3 men who won the running challenge are trying to decide who they want to go to paradise with. And so we pick up episode 8 with their choices. So Gwan-hee chooses Minji, Min-kyu chooses Beauty, and Gwan-hee chooses Hye-seon. So for Gwan-hee and Minji's paradise, it's pretty much a good time. They get along really well. They're comfortable with each other. She's flirting with him major. They have a moment where they walk around the what's called table together, which is kind of cute in a way. And then paradise with Hye-seon and Gwan-hee, it's basically awkward. Hye-seon doesn't want no part to do with it at the point that she barely eats. Gwan-hee mentions how he's glad that her timing with Minyoung has been off, which is selfish, but I get where he's coming from in a way. Paradise for Gyuri and Min-kyu, it's nothing really special. They basically talk about Minyoung and Gyuri's curiosity with him. And at some point in her confessional, she's with Min-kyu, there's no really excitement or giddiness. It's just rather relaxing. Whereas with Min-woo, it's uncomfortable, but in a good way. And then at some point in this episode, the women have a game, a chicken fight game, and similar to the other games, the top 3 winners get to choose who they want to go to paradise with. So the first round battles are Gyuri versus Hye-seon, Ha-jeong versus Hye-seon, and Minyoung versus Minji, and the winners of those 3 battles are going to face each other. And so Hye-seon, Ha-jeong, and Minji face each other, and coincidentally it happens to be the 3 women who are interested in Gwan-hee, but that's basically where the episode ends for that. So we pick up episode 9 with the chicken fight. The strategy is to take out Minji, which Ha-jeong does. The winners from 1st to 3rd are Hye-seon, Ha-jeong, and Minji. At some point, Hye-seon and Minyoung have a chance to talk, and there's a complete 180 with the way that Hye-seon is with Minyoung versus the way she's with Gwan-hee. They're both she's really happy to talk with him. They both said that that they missed each other. Minyoung mentions that there's somebody he wanted to talk with, which us as the audience, and I guess also Hye-seon knows, is Beauty. But he says that he's talking with Hye-seon, that he no longer wants to talk with that person. Gwan-hee and Minji have a chat. She gives him a letter, which is, I guess, based off a bet she lost from a game they played a few nights ago, where she's supposed to give him a letter. And this is important to keep in mind for later on. And I don't know, and I guess we can rule out any feelings she may have towards Jinseok, but I don't understand what happens in this conversation, because Gwan-hee basically tells her that she should pick Jinseok to go to paradise with, which he has no right to tell her to do that. But I guess it's his way of confirming if she likes him or not. I didn't really understand it, but I was just like, what are you doing? Gwan-hee and Ha-jeong also have a chat, and basically she kind of directly asks him if she's still interested in him. And basically it's their relationship since paradise has been off, and you can pretty much infer that he's not interested in her anymore like that. And the matches for paradise are Hye-seon chooses Gwan-hee, Ha-jeong chooses Ha-bin, so he's finally going to paradise, and Minji chooses Min-kyu, which, as we saw in the as I mentioned in the conversation that she had with Gwan-hee, that's a no-no. So because she chose Min-kyu, Gwan-hee is not having any of it. So in the helicopter ride to paradise, Minji's trying to get Gwan-hee's attention, poking him and all that, and he's ignoring her flat out. And he even gives her the cold shoulder. At one point, he pulls his arm away from her, and she starts crying. Paradise with Hye-seon and Gwan-hee. So to pretty much sum it up, Hye-seon's I'm pretty set on Gwan-hee. Gwan-hee keeps bringing up the whole her choosing Gwan-hee. That time she went to paradise, but if we remember their honors conversation from episode 6, I think, she said that she wasn't going to choose Gwan-hee to go to paradise with. Also, they were both talking about how they wanted to get to know other people as well, so him bringing it up and being upset, it makes no sense. And he talks about how he didn't want her to choose him because it would have complicated his feelings towards Minji. But I'm if you were set on Minji, then it doesn't matter what anybody else does, it shouldn't throw you off that much. And something to note is that they are in the same exact room he was with Minji the night before, so he keeps just thinking about her and the times that they had together. They kind of keep referencing the hot tub moment that they had in their first paradise moment, and where Gwan-hee and Hye-seon said that they're going to go do their rounds and basically end up with each other at the end, which is a big hint for the last episode, wink wink. And also in this paradise, Hye-seon and Gwan-hee both go into the hot tub, which Minji told Gwan-hee not to do that, which I'm just like, why do any of these contestants feel the need or feel like they can tell another person what they can or cannot do? Minji's and Minkyu's paradise is basically them talking about the helicopter scene and how Minji feels about Gwan-hee and this whole thing. She's frustrated again, she's obviously crying, but Minkyu gives good advice, and he even offers to help by like talking to Gwan-hee on her behalf when they get back to Inferno and explaining the whole situation and clearing things up. And so the episode ends with Gwan-hee and Hye-seon in their room talking about sleeping arrangements. He keeps like saying or projecting that she doesn't want to make her uncomfortable, but she never said that she was uncomfortable at all with him sleeping in the same room. And then it ends with him being like, do you want to sleep together? Episode 10, we pick up in Inferno with Minyoung and Gyuri talking about who Gyuri likes the most between Minkyu and Minwoo. The Inferno gang go to the beach to take some pics on the Polaroid, and at some point we see Hye-seon and Minwoo talking, being cute and all that, but Gyuri is like right in front of them listening to this, and she does not look happy because I guess she thought that Hye-seon like wanted. And in this episode we get the conversation from hell between Gyuri and Minwoo, and it's basically because Gyuri is being really, really scary and like a lot. So basically, before Gyuri went to paradise with Minkyu, she had a chat with Minwoo about their paradise time, and they seem to be hitting it off. You know, Minwoo seemed to be digging her a little bit more, and she told him that for him to stay put and not to do anything. Mind you, she doesn't have the right to do that, and also it's giving like, you're my dog, so stay. But he didn't listen, of course, and he went to go speak to Hye-seon, which we knew like he was interested in Hye-seon and all that, and that did not make Gyuri happy that he was doing that. And I thought she knew he was interested in Hye-seon, but I guess she did not. So she said some pretty rude things to Minwoo during this conversation. She talked about how she didn't like disobedient boys. It was all his fault that this is happening, like the breakdown of this kind of relationship, that he's being like Gwan-hee, which I was like, Rrr! And I guess the main reason she's upset is because of the way he was explaining why he went with Hye-seon more, which I guess I understand from her perspective, like why it feels like a 180, but I thought she knew that he was also like interested in Hye-seon. But anyways, the way he's explaining is that basically Hye-seon is putting in more effort. He does also say that, like, you know, they have this kind of friend vibe and they like connect really well, but like he's mainly emphasizing the point that Hye-seon made it more clear that she liked him, and from Gyuri he wasn't 100% sure if she was really like into him or not and all that. So yeah, so I guess I can kind of see where she's coming from, but it doesn't warrant her to react the way that she is. While this scary and long-drawn conversation is happening, Hye-seon is outside trying to figure out a way to basically interrupt the conversation and like get her man's like, and my man thinking to my man. And so we have Jinseok and Minyoung basically egging her on in a good way to be like, go do it, and she does, and Gyuri's like, no, and we're like, okay. And at some point, I forgot to mention during the conversation that Gyuri and Minwoo are having, Gyuri takes off her, mic, and Minwoo's like, are we allowed to do that? And so fortunately, you know, that conversation ends, and Minwoo and Hye-seon have a chat, and he reinforces that she has nothing to worry about and that he's sticking to his feelings towards her. So paradise with Ha-jeong and Ha-bin. So Ha-bin finally makes it a paradise, y'all. I didn't think he was gonna do it, but we find out that he is 31 and an actor in mainly independent films. At some point he asks about the whole candy situation that happened like a few episodes back, and like why she chose him or gave him one, and basically she's like, yeah, it was gonna originally probably go to Gwan-hee, but like at that time we were having like issues, and so like Ha-bin happened to just be there at the right time, and so that's why she like gave it to him. Anyways, I remember a few episodes ago Ha-bin made it clear that he wanted to go to paradise with Ha-jeong to talk about deep conversations where they didn't have limitations on their conversations, but basically when he gets there he's like, yeah, we're pretty much comfortable enough, I don't really need to ask any more questions. And she's like, you eventually see them in the bedroom because they're sleeping in separate beds but in the same room, and Ha-bin kind of further explains why he like was being like that, and he's like, ever since I was like a kid, like I have a hard time bearing myself, which I'm like, but what does that have to do with asking her questions? At some point he's like prancing or pacing around the bedroom and basically asking for advice of like, how can I do better in this area of my life? And I'm like, not Mother Ha-jeong giving more advice as usual. And at some point she's like, I'm going to bed, girl, good night. And basically he wastes his opportunity to get to know Ha-jeong. And we see a little bit of the morning of Hye-seon and Gwan-hee's paradise, and you know, Gwan-hee's with his like BS what if questions, and he's like, if we go back to reality, like could you see us going out? And I don't know what if she answers or not, but in her confessional at one point she's like, he's pathetic. But she's like, that's kind of like what I like about him. And I'm like, okay. But they have a helicopter ride again. Love those helicopter rides from hell. And Minji tries to get Gwan-hee to look at her again and get his attention, and he looks the other way, and at some point he whispers to her being like, do not talk to me. Back in Inferno. So as promised, Min-kyu talks to Gwan-hee and explains everything that happened in the helicopter and just like everything that happened the night before with Minji and how she cried, and apparently Gwan-hee did not know she was crying on the helicopter. And then announcer lady's like, hey y'all, this is the last day y'all can go on like those free dates, because like tomorrow basically y'all are gonna be choosing who you gonna be leaving this island with and all that. And so the episode kind of ends with, we see Minji and Hye-seon in their like cubicle dungeon style like lock boxes. And we see somebody about to enter in, and so that's how basically the episode ends. We pick up episode 11 with that same thing that we ended with episode 10, but instead of it being Gwan-hee who Minji wanted it to be, it is Hye-seon, and she's like, for real, be for real, not for fake. Minyoung and Jinseok have their final kind of last date, and she's like expressing her gratitude about like her experience with him, how thankful she is. She's like crying a little bit, having a cute moment, and Jinseok, because he's like still on his little grudge moment, he like kind of ruins the cute moment, but we can basically conclude that they're going to choose each other. Gwan-hee at some point has a conversation with like Ha-jeong, but it's like in front of everybody, a few other people at the cafe, and he's like, if there's a last thing you could say to me, like what would it be? Him and his what ifs. And she's like, go round and round and return to me. So Ha-jeong also asks him the same question. He mentions how he loved her once, which I'm like, how do you love somebody in 9 days? Like, I don't get that, but whatever. But we can conclude that he's basically not choosing Ha-jeong, and literally this was so sad to watch, like, because in her confessional she's like reminiscing about their experience and like all the good times that they had, and she starts crying, and I feel so bad for her because I really feel like she was just gaslit this whole time with Gwan-hee, and he just like was the reason why their relationship didn't go well, but didn't take responsibility. So Minji and Gwan-hee have a talk, and he expresses how he doubted her feelings for him because she chose Min-kyu for her paradise, but she's like, but why? Because I literally gave you a letter saying that I like you the most, or like I'm choosing you and all that. So she's frustrated at the fact that he would even think that or doubt her or even was ignoring her. Hye-seon and Gwan-hee also have a talk. At some point when they're talking, like Minji walks by and he's like distracted, like trying like focusing his energy of where Minji was walking. But Hye-seon, I guess, admits at one point that she maybe kind of went about the whole experience a little bit wrong, in the sense of like she should have just like stuck to her initial feelings of, I'm assuming she was referencing her feelings towards Gwan-hee, and just stuck with that versus like maybe trying to get to know other people. That's how I interpret it as. Gwan-hee acknowledges that he didn't think it would take him till the very end to figure out his feelings, but I'm not surprised he did. Gwan-hee said that, and I should have double checked this, so I don't know exactly how he said it, but the way I interpreted it, I think he was saying how like Minji was basically the only woman who was pretty much upfront about her feelings. I think it said something about how she didn't mince her words or whatever, and which I'm confused by, because, and everybody else is, because it's like Hye-seon was pretty upfront, and so was Ha-jeong, and Hye-seon is not having any of it. She's like, F this BS. Ain't no way you're gonna do that. She's like basically like, go to Minji if you're gonna do this. Like, I've done what I needed to do. If you don't want to choose me, fine, but like go to Minji if you're going to be doing all that. And something to note, I think in his confessional when they're having like one of those his conversation, then he notes that he had this like epiphany moment where he notes that maybe he was the problem during this whole entire season. And now final drink time, but this time not from hell. So Minji sits right next to Gwan-hee, and Hye-seon is right across from them, seeing them, you know, interact. And basically we're all just trying to figure out who the heck Gwan-hee finna pick. Hye-seon finally finds out how old Minwoo is, because remember, they never went to paradise together. They basically had their love story in Inferno only. Gwan-hee is not done figuring out who he chose, and he's like not telling anybody like basically what those thoughts are. He asks Hye-seon at one point, like, if she could go back to any time during Inferno, like, what would that be? He's basically trying to probe her to be like, I regretted choosing Gwan-hee, which is like, stop bringing that up. Literally stop it. And she's like, reverse Uno. It was the first day, and we don't know what that means because that could be left up to any kind of interpretation. Sheehan also asked Hye-seon, like, is there a time any guy kind of like made your heart flutter? And she's like, no, I can't really think of one. And then Hye-seon has a little bit of an emotional thank you moment to everybody, and she's like crying a lot, or like she's crying, and then Gwan-hee starts like bawling his eyes out, and I'm just like, what's going on right now? And then at some point, Gwan-hee and Hye-seon like go off to have a chat on their own, and she asks him like, why couldn't you make up your mind? And he's like, I really didn't want to talk about that in front of everyone, which is fair because the last time he did that, he got dragged. And he said one of the last things he wants to say to Hye-seon is that she's one of the kindest people that he met out of everyone there, and that he learned a lot from her, and that he also wanted to apologize to her for hurting her. And now the final choices. And so Jinseok chooses Minyoung. Yes, the ship sailed. I bet y'all I was up here for them. Cutie chooses Minkyu, which I was actually surprised by. Hye-seon chooses Minwoo. Yes, love another ship. And then Gwan-hee chooses Hye-seon. And my overall thoughts on this season was that it was a mess and a half, mainly because of Gwan-hee. Ha-jeong and Jinseok were the absolute stars of this show, and I'm telling you, they need to have a joint talk show together. I still think after watching all the 3 seasons that season 2 is the best season out of all of them. I guess Gwan-hee and Hye-seon were correct about how they were going to go round and round and then end up with each other. I'm actually surprised at how many people ended up coupled up. I thought there'd be more singles, and I'm also surprised that Ha-jeong like didn't end up with anybody because, you know, she's queen. While I get that this was an emotionally charged show, and like obviously things happen, emotions are in there and all that, and like people make mistakes, I really do hope that Gwan-hee takes the time to reflect on the things that he did and the way he acted towards people and the change for the better, because if that's how he operates in life and relationships, I feel really bad for the people that have to deal with him, because that's just not fair and not cool. Speaking of Gwan-hee, something that the commentators mentioned throughout the season, and I feel especially in the last few episodes, of how he would put the blame when he was in the wrong on the woman. And he did it especially, I noticed, with Ha-jeong. That's why I felt so bad for her. And basically, like, it would be his fault that things weren't going well, and that he would spin it in a way that it was their fault. For example, I think either in episode 10 or 11, I think it's 10 or maybe 9, I don't remember. Ha-jeong and Gwan-hee have a conversation, and he mentions how basically when she apologized like that for like getting mad at him, like that was also a turning point for the worse. And I'm like, but why are you blaming her for apologizing? I don't know, there's something about Ha-bin that like, about his personality, like it doesn't sit right with me. Like I can't pinpoint what it is, but there's just something about it that I'm like, I don't know, I don't trust you completely. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to watch any of my other reviews, feel free to. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Bye.